I still remember the day they laughed at me, loud, cruel, and full of disbelief. I was just starting out, full of dreams and hope, standing in the middle of a neglected patch of earth that everyone else had given up on. My idea? To use fungi, mycelium, to detoxify the soil, to breathe life back into lands that had been poisoned and abandoned. It sounded too radical, too naive to the world, especially to my own family. They called it nature's fairy tale, a childish fantasy, an embarrassment to everything they believed I should be. That day, I was told I'd fail, that I was wasting my time, that I was foolish to think I could make any difference. My own parents, proud members of the agricultural establishment, looked at me as if I had lost my mind. "You're chasing a dream that's never going to work," my father said, voice heavy with skepticism. "You're just making a fool of yourself. Do you know how many people laugh behind your back? You're an embarrassment." It stung. Yes, it cut deep. But inside, something refused to break. I knew I was on to something real, something that could change everything. So I walked away from their ridicule, from their dismissals, and I dedicated myself to proving them wrong. The years that followed were relentless. I poured everything I had into research, into trial and error, into understanding fungi. Their complex networks, their incredible ability to break down toxins, to restore balance. I faced setbacks that felt like crushing failures. Land that I worked on would sometimes show no signs of change, or worse, become more damaged. Friends and family dismissed me as obsessed, as a fool chasing a pipe dream. But I kept going, driven by a belief that this was my purpose, that this was my contribution to the world. And then, slowly, the results started to show. First, tiny patches of green sprouted where soil was once dead and barren. Then larger areas began to breathe again. Rivers cleared, trees took root, wildlife returned. My methods, once mocked as naive, proved effective beyond what I ever dared hope. I watched barren wastelands transform into vibrant ecosystems teeming with life. I had become the environmental innovator I knew I could be, standing on the brink of revolutionizing ecological. But the true test came when I returned home, years later, after the world had begun to recognize my work. I was invited to speak at conferences, featured in documentaries, celebrated as a pioneer in mycoremediation. I had achieved what seemed impossible. My work was saving polluted lands, restoring ecosystems, healing wounds that humanity had inflicted. And so I drove back to that small town, to the place where my family had once dismissed me as a fool. I wanted them to see what I had become, not just in success, but in resilience, in unwavering belief in my purpose. The day I arrived, I took them to a piece of land that had been an environmental nightmare, an abandoned factory site coated in chemicals and decay. Today, it was a testament to transformation. Fungi carpets blanketed the soil, dense and vibrant. Trees now towered, their roots holding the earth firm. Birds chirped, insects buzzed, and life thrived where death once reigned. It was a miracle born of patience, perseverance, and faith in something seemingly impossible. I watched my family's faces as they stood there, silent, eyes wide with disbelief. My mother's hand trembled as she looked at the thriving landscape. My father, who once mocked me for naive dreams, gazed in stunned silence. Their expressions, shock, awe, and a hint of remorse, hit me harder than words ever could. Then I stepped forward, turning to face them. My voice was steady, but inside, my heart was pounding with emotion. "You see this?" I asked, gesturing to the land. "This is what belief, persistence, and faith in nature's power can do. I was told I'd fail. I was mocked, dismissed, called foolish. But I never gave up, because I knew in my bones that this was possible, that life could return, even from the depths of despair. And I did it, not just for me, but for the earth, for future generations who deserve to inherit a healthier world." A long silence followed. My father looked down, visibly grappling with the weight of his past words. My mother's eyes shimmered with tears, perhaps regret, perhaps pride. I saw in their faces the realization that their skepticism had been misplaced, that their dismissiveness had been a barrier to something extraordinary. That moment, that unspoken acknowledgement, felt like a catharsis. I saw the consequences of their past derision laid bare, not in shame, but in the undeniable proof of what I had become. As I turned to leave, I looked back at the thriving landscape, feeling a profound sense of triumph, not just over land was stored, but over doubt, over fear, over the voices that once told me I was foolish. And in that quiet victory, I learned an invaluable truth, that stubborn faith and relentless effort can turn even the most ridiculous dreams into reality. That failure, mockery, and skepticism are just chapters in the story of perseverance. That the true measure of success isn't just the achievement itself, but the courage to pursue what seems impossible. Today, I stand here, rooted in my purpose, knowing that I've not only transformed polluted soil, but also transformed doubt into belief, for myself and for those who dare to dream differently. And that, I realize now, is the real victory.